I'd say over 200 in here today. So we certainly have a good showing. Just to give you a quick update, because I know that you're all anxious to know, is I have just received word yesterday afternoon late that the compliance training, the compliance system won't go into development until February 10th. So it should be opening up a few days after that. We do, however, in the doc library, have the manuals and questions for you so that you can at least start working outside of the system. And then once it opens up, you'll be able then to, if you're on a desk review or an on-site, then upload those items in there. So I'm going to turn it over to the compliance team and let them get started. And thank you for joining us again today.
Okay. Diane, who's controlling the slides today?
I am.
Okay.
You ready for me to change?
Okay. I just want to make sure we have someone doing that. So I just want to say welcome to everyone on this very cold and snowy day in Ohio. And we get ready to go into the compliance season. My name is Michael Crace, and I am joined today, if we can go to the next slide, Diane. I'm joined today by Randy Richardson, Paul Preston, and Diane Neal. And Diane, the slide just went away. Can you hear me, Diane?
I wonder if we lost her.
Yeah, because the slide just went away, and I think she went away.
Okay, give me 1 second here.
Also, while we're waiting, if you have your microphone on, if you could just make sure it's muted so we don't get feedback during the presentation. We will have time later in the presentation for questions and answers.
That was fun.
Hey, Rachel, can you hear me?
I can, Paul.
Thank you.
I can hear you, Paul. There's Diane. Hi, Diane. We lost you. Okay. Diane, can you hear me? Okay.
Okay, let's try this. I'm gonna show my slides here.
Okay.
So I'm gonna take over since it looks like Diane's gonna have some technical issues. So Michael, what slide do you need to be on here?
Go to the second slide. I was just the introduction of who's presenting today. And then I believe the third slide is where we're in today's agenda. We're going to talk about the purpose of monitoring, levels and risk factors which determine what type of review your district will receive. We're going to discuss timeline for monitoring, which of course will be somewhat flexible given that the We are actually starting this process later than usual. Some update for this coming year for those of you who have done this process before, and then steps that you and your district can take to prepare for the monitoring process. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Randy Richardson, who is one of our longtime consultants in our department, and can easily become my go-to guy for questions as well. So, Randy.
Thanks, Michael. Can you go to the next slide, Rachel, please? Thank you. The three tiers of support. There's a tier 1, a tier 2, and a tier 3, and I'm going to talk about those here and how and what tier is what survey. As I said, there's 3 tiers of support. Tier 1 is districts that would be doing a self-survey. Tier 2 and Tier 3. Tier 2 would be a desk review, and Tier 3 is an on-site review. And how do you, if you can go to the next slide, please. Risk factors determine the tier that you're in. And every year, the department identifies a set of risk factors and scores. And these may be changed subject to change as federal requirements and expectations change. For FY20, there are 17 factors for the CCIP, and for ESSER, because that's new, there are 4 factors that determine the risk. In your document library, when you go into the CCIP, you go into the doc library, you want to open that up. I'm going to go over the risk factors with you, but I'm not going to go through each one with the point total, because I think it's better for you if you can open that up, if you can go into the CCIP when you get a chance and go into compliance, click on compliance, and then when you click on compliance, it's going to be down at the bottom. It'll say FY21 risk factors, and then right below that, it'll say FY21 risk factors for ESSER. So when you open that up, it will give you, for instance, number 1 under risk factors for the CCIP is a new federal program coordinator at the district level, or listed federal programs coordinator is also listed as superintendent or treasurer. Those, and then when you look down at in that section, it'll give you the points that you would receive for those answers. And that is that's how your risk is determined. The second risk factor is non-compliance in an ESEA program for the preceding year. And this is applied only to previously monitored districts. So for instance, if you had a non-compliance and you were monitored in the previous year and you had 5 issues, you had issues for, that you had to put together a plan for, or you would get 3 to 5, between 3 and 9, that'd be 10 points. And the way the risk factor works is the lower the points, the better. It's like in golf. A birdie's better than a par. So you want to get, what you want to work for is the lower number of points puts you in put you to a tier 1. The third risk factor is if you failed the FY19 ESEA maintenance of effort, that would be a 5-point score. Districts identified as the different types: ADC, moderate, DF, moderate, C, or independent. Community schools, if they're identified and the type of identification they have, those are different point totals are attributed to that. The district size of the total ESEA award, depending on the size of your grant. For instance, 15 points for a grant over $5 million. Less than 250,000, that would be a 0. So those are the way that the risk factor points are totaled up. And like I said, the best thing to do is to look in the CCIP document library and go down to the compliance, and then you open that up, you can find these. Number 7 would be compliance surveys. Tier 1 self-survey, Tier 2 desk, and Tier 3 on-site. 8 large carryovers, depending on the size of your carryover. Number 9 would be expired funds, if you have had expired funds in any of your grants. Number 10, district delayed the previous year's submission of the consolidated application. And that's why we always say, get your application in July 1 so you can get that July 1 substantially approved date, so then you can encumber funds back to July 1. So depending on when you submitted your date, that is also different points. Prior monitoring of the district is depending on what type of monitoring you've had in the past. District shows incomplete non-public data system participation forms. Those are to be completed. District's duration of existence and operation. Obviously, all local school districts, exempted village, city schools have been in existence for a long time. So that almost every one of you should get a 0 on that. But if it's a community school, depending on how long you have been in existence, would be how many points you get. 14, the district received an A133 single independent audit. 15, the district was required to demonstrate comparability. If you did not have to do comparability, then that'd be a 0. But if you do comparability, then there are different points attributed to that. District submitted a project cash request. How many you submit? How many times? Large non-public carryovers. You also depending on the number of the carryover in your non-public, that also has point totals. The ESSER risk factors, there are 4 of them. As you know, the ESSER funds renew, and it depends upon the district's amount. The district budgeted an equitable service amount. The district has an equitable service amount, and by August 6th, the district submitted a project cash request depending on the different amounts of your allocation. So those are the risk factors for both the CCIP and ESSER. And I would, like I said, I highly recommend that you go into the doc library compliance FY21 and go down to almost the bottom of that page, and it'll give you both of the risk factors for the CCIP monitoring and the ESSER monitoring. Could you go to the next slide, please? And like I said, there are word for the wise. You want to spend your money. Make sure you spend the money. You want to complete your self-survey. Make sure that it's completed, and that's due this year on June 30th. The self-survey is due this year, June 30th. I'll talk about those later. Provide your non-public equitable services. Make sure you provide those to your non-pubs. And what did we do wrong to get monitored? You didn't do anything wrong. Monitoring is part of the process. It's not punitive. We are here to help. It just depending on your score of your risk factor score. That's why you're the tier that you're in. But you did not do anything wrong to get monitored. If you go to the next survey, the monitoring purpose, please. A monitoring purpose is we want to provide support. The focus is not only on non-compliance. We want to provide technical assistance. We want to share guidance on allowable uses of funds. And we want to assist you with implementing the changes. We also would like to strengthen programs through a 3-tier monitoring approach. So that's the purpose of the monitoring. Let's see, next slide, please. And here they are again, the 3 tiers. Tier 3 is high-risk districts. They participate in on-site monitoring. Tier 2 would be selected districts participate in desk monitoring. And Tier 1 are all the districts not selected for a desk or on-site monitoring with ESEA funds complete the self-survey. And I believe everybody's been notified now as to what type of a survey that they have. Those of you that would have a on-site, they're all virtual this year, just FYI, those will be virtual on-sites. A little bit different than in the past, obviously, but with everything that's going on, we're going to make the best of doing it virtually. The desk reviews, just like the past, you submit the documentation, you work with your consultant, and the self-survey is you open up the self-survey and you complete the self-survey. Now, all these this year in the past, if you remember, if you had a desk or an on-site review in the past, the consultant had to click the start button. All 3 surveys now, the district starts the survey. It does not have to be started by the consultant. You do that yourself, the district does. Okay, slide number 9. The breakdown. There are 30 on-sites this year, 62 desk reviews, 30 modified desk reviews. A modified desk review is one where you had a review last year, and this year you do not have to. In the past, if you had an on-site review and there was a finding, you would have to go back for a full-blown desk review the next year. Now it's a modified. The modified means you only have to complete that section where there was an issue, and most of those issues have already been completed. You just have to upload it into the system. But if you do have a modified desk, you must do a self-survey. So remember that if you have a modified desk, you also have to do a self-survey. And there are 793 self-surveys this year. Okay, and I believe number 10, slide number 10, Paul, is that you? Paul, you there?
I'm here, Randy. I just couldn't get my mic on.
No,
all right.
Go on.
I wonder if those that try to access this new system will have a similar little issues. However, hope not. With our guidance, we're going to assist them. To access the new fiscal year 21 monitoring and tracking system, the user will enter the user's Ohio ID login to select the new monitoring tile. You can go to slide 11 if you want to, please. Good. Okay. The Ohio Department of Education compliance system is migrating to a new cloud-based monitoring and tracking system. The migration of this system will be occurring in phases over the next few months, not just for our offices, but for different offices. The Office of Federal Programs Compliance Monitoring and Tracking System typically begins each year between November and January. However, this year, given the challenge of creating a new cloud-based monitoring and tracking system, along with adding the new COVID-related grants, etc., there have been some delays. We anticipate districts will have access to their self-survey, the desk review, and on-site review monitoring systems very soon. Navigating this new monitoring and tracking system should not cause districts really many concerns or problems, given the structure and the functions of the new monitoring and tracking system will be so very similar to those that you've been using for the One Needs Assessment. As the enhancements of the One Needs Assessment provided the user with a friendlier and more intuitive needs assessment process, the new monitoring and tracking system was designed to do the same thing, to enhance the user's experience with a more efficient monitoring tracking system. Okay. Where are we here? You can go into the next slide, please. We should be on 12. Right? Good. Yes. Okay. Good. As mentioned above, district personnel will use their Ohio ID login in order to access the new fiscal year 21 monitoring and tracking system. The user will enter their Ohio ID username, password, and click on the login link at the top of the Ohio Department of Education homepage, or go to the Ohio ID portal directly at ohioid.ohio.gov. The user will click the Login tab there, which has a green box on this slide. You see the green box there with the arrow pointing to it. You click on that, and that will take you to help you log in. If the user requires technical support accessing the account, the user should contact the Ohio Department of Education at 877-644-6338 or at profile.help@education.ohio.gov. And I'm certain we're going to put this into the chat, this contact information. Okay, you can go on to slide 13 if you will, please. Okay. If the user cannot access, well, where are we here? Yeah, if the user cannot contact the Ohio Department of Education through the Ohio Department of Education homepage, then the user may access it by going directly to Ohio ID portal directly at ohioid.ohio.gov. Users can access that online compliance monitoring system grants through the Ohio Department of Education's Ohio ID Secure webpage portal login, formerly known as the SAFE. Thank you. If you go on to 14, please. Good. If the user does not have an Ohio ID portal account, the user should click on Create New Account, and you'll see that there with that red arrow pointing to that Ohio portal there. Okay, you can go to 15, please. Okay, after the user has access to the Ohio ID account, the user will select the monitoring tile shown on the slide there with that red arrow pointing around that red box. After selecting the monitoring tile, you will be moved automatically to the monitoring dashboard. And just as a note here, to access the consolidated grant surveys, the user must be assigned one of the following roles in OEDS, the Ohio Department of Education Directory System. That would be the CCIP authorized representative, the CCIP fiscal representative, the superintendent, the treasurer, data entry planning CCIP, or the data entry funding CCIP. If you can't access the CCIP, you need to talk to your OEDS administrator, and that person should be able to assign you a role. Just click on Select Programs. Okay, I think we're going to 16, and I see, is that Diane or is that me? Okay, I think that's going to 16. Yeah, as I mentioned earlier.
Paul.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Right.
So the compliance system has a new name, and it's now called the Monitoring and Tracking System. The old compliance system, when you go in, you're still going to see your tile there. That's going to allow you to go back to see previous years' monitoring surveys that you've had through your compliance system through consolidated funding applications. But it's also, there are still programs that are still migrating over to the new cloud-based monitoring and tracking system. So there are still other program offices that will be operating out of this tile or the old compliance tile until our IT office gets everyone transferred over. Can we go to the next slide, please, Rachel? Thank you. So once you click on the monitoring tile that Paul has shown to you, you're going to then select the consolidated ESEA grants over there on the left-hand side. The page that you are seeing is your dashboard. Your dashboard will inform you of your status of all the surveys that you have in the system, and exactly where you are with them, if they're opened, if they've been started, how much percentage of the survey you've been able to complete so far. Okay, so once you click on Consolidated ESA Grants, it's going to take you to the basic search page. Your district's information should already be populated in the search. So what you'll want to do is hit the red search button there. That's the second arrow on the page. And then below, it will populate the results for your district. You're going to then click on your district, and it'll open up then to your survey there. So it's going to take you to the Overview tab. The Overview tab gives you an overview generally of that specific survey. It's going to show you, for example, in the underneath Consolidated ESEA, If you have the McKinney-Vento grantee, that grant will be housed underneath there, as well as the consolidated ESEA grant. If you're doing a modified desk review, you will also have a self-survey to complete along with that. So you could have 2 or 3 surveys underneath here. Most of you will only have one. We go to the next page. So you're going to click on the questions tab that's up there at the top. And there it'll show you your surveys again. And you want to highlight the row of the survey that you're going to work on. If you haven't already started the survey, you're going to want to change the status there to draft started. And then once you do that, can you show the next slide then, Rachel? The questions will populate then below that section on the questions tab. It will default once to whatever survey you were in last. So you need to highlight your survey, and then once you open them all, it'll easily translate or move from the one survey to the next and populate the questions below. All right, can we go to the next slide? So the questions are set up underneath sections. So for the consolidated, you'll have your sections, you'll have Title 1, Title 2, Title 3 or 4. All of your grants would be your sections. Those are all located on the right-hand side. You'll notice that you have also an area that's for green. That means that you have uploaded or provided, that's the districts column as far as what they have done. And the other 2 columns then would be for ODE as we go through and complete the survey. In the center of the page then are numbers for each of the sections. And Title I has subsections within it even. So you'll see, because of the different, parents' right to know, you'll click on that subsection or those questions, and you'll have within parents' right to know a couple of groupings. The name for the grouping of the questions is always right there in the center above the numbers. So for example, here we know that we're looking at fiscal documents sections or questions on the required fiscal documents. Okay, next. You will be asked to upload documents, and the answer document will ask you to upload. There are 2 ways that you can upload a document. The first way is right there below the question. There's an icon for you to upload your document. You would click on upload, and on the left-hand side, you would see this flyout area appear. Can we go to the next slide? On that slide, then, you're going to want to select Add Document. And then you're going to get a drop down, and you're going to select what type of document you're adding, whether it's a document, a fiscal document, or a program document, or could be a document for parent engagement. You're just going to select that there. Okay, Rachel, I'm ready. And then you're going to click that you want to browse or, find your document on your computer. So we go to the next slide. Oop. I went too fast. You have 2 ways that you can upload the document. You can drag it over into the box that was there earlier, or you can upload it from your computer like you do an attachment for an email. So, and it's showing you the box that you're going to do it. Once you have done that and you've clicked, you click on Save the Document, then it's going to show up underneath a list of your documents there on the side, as well as we go through the questions, it'll populate there. Okay, can we go to the next slide? There's a second way, well, this is to add comments. So if you want to add a comment, you can do it also by clicking comments there on the bottom, or the comment there on the left-hand side. And there's another icon on the left-hand side with that second arrow that would be for also uploading a document. So you can upload documents from there as well. So you were going to click on add a comment, and then we can go to the next slide. There you're going to put in a title for your comment, and then you're going to actually type in your message or your comment. For most of these, it's going to be to describe your process or your procedures or how you're planning on doing something. And then you're going to add that comment to the list of comments there, and it'll be added to the question. Okay. So once you have gone through all the questions and you have uploaded all the required documents and provided comments for all the required items, then you're going to want to go and you're going to want to submit your survey. So you are going to go back to the up at the top of the questions to the compliance status, and you're going to click Submit Survey. And if all the required items have been answered, you will get the green little box that says it was successfully saved. Okay, can we go to the next one? So your survey hasn't yet been closed if you're on a desk review or an Onsite. If you are on a self-survey, at that point, your survey is closed, you're done. So for those of you, though, that are on Onsites or desk, you've provided everything now to us, but now it's up to your consultant now to review all of those items and then to go through and complete the review of the survey. So you could get, the items could show up as green in the row, meaning that everything looked really well. Or you could see an item that may be orange or red and possibly towards the end purple. So the orange items would be those items that there's going to be a technical assistance. That means we're going to provide you an explanation of, usually it's a new rule or new laws, or an explanation of a process that we can see, yeah, you tried to do it, but you just missed a couple of things. So we're just going to do some technical assistance here. It's really not to the level where you're out of compliance, though. So that would be orange. If it's something that we need to correct because it's not following along with what the requirements are in the grant, then it would be red and it would be an issue. And so at that point, then you're going to see red on that question. Now, once you've had an issue, and this is new with this system, we weren't able to do this before, and you've done a corrective action plan and you've submitted your evidence, we're able now to go back in and we can change that issue to a purple, indicating that that issue has been resolved. It's been fixed. So it shows that the district did what they needed to do to make corrections, and it's no longer an issue any longer. So, all right, can we go to the next page? So there are steps, though, to closing issues that we have to go through. So even though the survey may have been closed, it's not finally closed until we've been able to address all the issues that have been identified. So if a district should happen to have a finding or an issue, your program specialist is going to create an issue, and they will put a recommendation for what they recommend you could do to resolve the issue. Once they submit that issue, then the district has 30 days to write a corrective action plan for how they're going to resolve the issue. They then, their program specialist and the assistant directors will review the corrective action plan. They could approve it, or they could send it back and say, we want you to add something to it, or we want this changed. Any corrective action plans that a district has, there is a place where the superintendent needs to approve that in order for, so that we're aware, we know that they're aware of it at least. And then once the corrective action plan has been approved by the superintendent and our office, then the district can work on implementing the action plan and submitting then the evidence. So the system or the compliance isn't closed until really all of the issues have also been addressed and closed. So there's like the survey can be closed, but the monitoring visit doesn't get closed until those issues are addressed. And once you upload your evidence, then your program specialist will review it, and one of the assistant directors then will go in and close the issue. So, okay, can we go to the next slide? All right, compliance timeline. I'll pass the wand.
Rachel, could you go to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, the self-survey timeline, the district completes and checks the items, and the system hopefully will be open sometime after February the 10th. And then that's when you can go into the system and start working on your self-survey. The self-survey is due June 30th of 2021. And one thing about the self-survey that I want to make sure everyone understands is you do not have to upload any documents or provide any comments. You just need to answer the questions. What we recommend, we highly recommend that you do have those documents on file somewhere in your office. So if ever needed, you could pull that document and say, yes, here it is, I have it. So if you ever do have a desk review or an on-site review, you have those documents in place. But those documents do not need to be uploaded into the system for the self-survey. March to May, you like to, collect and store those documents, check those, and like I said, to keep for you. But then the survey itself needs to be completed by June 30th of 2021. Next slide, please. The desk review timeline. This is the consultant directed. The consultant, your federal programs consultant, will work with the district in regards to the setting up times to have Zoom meetings, team meetings, Skype meetings, whatever. Once you start implementing, or once you start submitting your documents, if you have questions, you can talk about that. Then the consultant will go over the desk review with you and ask questions. And same with that, it will be open sometime mid-February. And then the consultant wants to have that completed by June 30th. And then if there are any CAPs, corrective action plans that are due, they are due within 30 days of when that is submitted. So February, compliance system opens, district starts it, the survey. February to April, consultant sets dates for desk reviews and to check items. So that's when they will work together. Next slide, please. The virtual onsite. This is also consultant directed. February, the system opens, hopefully in the mid 10th, 15th, somewhere in that time. March to June, the consultant reviews the monitoring outcome sets, and then also during that time frame, hopefully March, April, May, the consultant will get with the district to set up a time when they will have the virtual onsite. That's when they will get on, have a team meeting and go over there'll be an agenda set when you will review with the documents with the district. You'll have the district would also, and the consultant will meet with the building principals of all the Title I served buildings. And then also, and if you have non-publics, would get that set up at the time when you would meet with those people. It'll be just basically, it'll be like an on-site review, except it'll be virtual. So we're going to do that virtual this year, and I'm with everything that seems to be going, all the team meetings and everything that we've had seem to be going well. So we're hoping that this also will be a good review in the middle of a pandemic, and hopefully things are getting better. So in end of January, well, this should end of February. Hopefully the compliance system will be open in mid-February, and February to April on-site visits I'm guessing it'll be late February. If anybody, that may be the first that we would set up a time, would be mid to late February. Obviously, if the system's not open until the 15th, be the end of February through April is when those would be completed, those on-site and conducted. Next slide, please. And modified desk reviews, I'm not sure if that's Michael or Paul.
That's me, Randy.
All right, it's Michael.
Yeah, we talked a little briefly about modified desk reviews. If you had a desk review last year or an on-site review last year, and there was a finding, you'll be asked to do a modified desk review this year. So basically, you're going to present evidence to show that whatever the finding was the previous year had been corrected, particularly if that evidence could not be shown during that compliance season. So this is only for desk review or on-site to show correction has been made. And in addition, that you will also complete the self-survey. And again, as Randy mentioned, there is no document upload for the self-survey or for the or comments to be made. So that's, in a nutshell, what a modified desk review. If you have one, you probably have 1, 2, maybe 3 questions at the most to answer, just depending on the issue from the previous review. So next slide. And preparing for an onsite, I believe that's Paul. Paul,
yes. Yep, Michael, you're absolutely correct. Yes. I found that mute button this time. Okay, preparing for an on-site may cause you some challenges. However, it doesn't need to. In fact, if you follow these steps that I'm going to quickly provide, you probably have a very successful monitoring experience. First, you want to become very familiar with the CCIP funding application, the one needs assessment, and the one plan if you're doing the one plan. If you're the current coordinator, you already have this under your belt really well. You need to become very familiar with the on-site questions and the documents that are being required to be uploaded. You need to have those so that you can have them easily accessible to you. You need to identify district personnel who are responsible for knowing and addressing each of those on-site questions and who are responsible for providing you with the documents that are required to be uploaded. That could be you if you're the ones doing everything in the district. Ensuring they provide you with the required information to address the questions and the documents that you must be uploaded. Address the questions and upload the documents. Once that's done, then maintain close communications with your federal programs consultant. Having that ongoing communication with your federal programs consultant is going to be critical throughout this, and it will be very important to your federal programs consultant also. Don't hesitate to ask questions for clarification, or if you need assistance or samples, just contact your consultant. I would advise you don't wait to get started to the very last minute. It's not a task that cannot be done, but if you put it off, it will be very difficult for you. And then I advise you to create a plan to address all these different areas. So, okay, we can go to the next slide, please. Preparing for the onsite. I sort of covered that months ago. You want to determine who needs to be involved on the onsite in the district. That's very important. If it's building principals, whoever, you want to have all those people identified, whether it's EL coordinator, homeless liaison, parent coordinator, etc. You want to have all those individuals identified. You want to distribute questions and the required evidence list to all those individuals, and then create a timeline for the preparation for all of this. So, but you know how, I'm certain you've been involved with many BLTs and DLTs, so you know how to do this. So, next slide, please. Okay. Great. Continuing on, preparing for an onsite, provide documents prior to the visit. These are some of the documents that you want to provide your federal programs coordinator, even a consultant, before that you even get there, or this year before we have that virtual onsite. Federally funded spreadsheet, evidence-based strategies, how you've been using those, and which ones you've been using, payroll records, your fiscal ledgers, building budgets, depending upon how many buildings that you have there and are involved with that. Okay, next slide, please. Continue on with preparing for an onsite, prepare staff involved with the onsite. The more they're involved, the sooner they're involved, the easier it will be for them and for you. It's talking about building principles, the building worksheet, having that completed, non-publics and non-public worksheet, federal staff, that's the homeless liaison, parent liaison, etc. We will be going over a lot of fiscal documents and personnel documents in this process. So those all need to be readily available. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, resources. So here's a list of a variety of resources. And Diane, is this yours? So anyway, there's a comprehensive list of...
Yeah, it could be, I don't know. But if you go to the document library, we have set up a file that's just for FY21 monitoring underneath compliance, and it has a variety of all the documents that you could use or need to prepare for your visit. The building worksheet is there. If you notice, it's about halfway down the page, right underneath the evidence-based spreadsheet. You want to give that to your principals, because those are the questions that during the virtual, if you're on an onsite during the virtual meeting, that we'll go over with them and ask, so they can at least look at those ahead of time and be prepared for the questions that we'll ask. The same for your non-public worksheets. Your homeless liaison should be available for the virtual meeting for an onsite, as well as if you have parent coordinator or a parent liaison. Often they can answer questions that the person in the main office or the district office doesn't have that hands-on knowledge about what's going on and what's been done. So, okay, I think next slide. I think that's it for our presentation. And so we'll open it up for questions for anyone if you want to ask any questions. We have about 9 minutes here left. We've had some really good questions in the chat.
Yeah, hi, Diane. Jamie Palmer, Maslin City. I had mentioned earlier that it would be really helpful if, and I have talked to Karen Auble about this. She did this. I probably sent her an email about 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago on that risk-based methodology feedback. It would be nice. Is there anywhere or any way we can get feedback on maybe the areas that are pinpointing the district for high levels of points? Because when I do a self-analysis, we're very low, but obviously that's just us doing it. So there might be something we're missing.
Yeah, we don't post that because, it would have all the district scores and, but your consultant would be able to provide that to you. So if you request it from them, they can actually provide you your risk factor score and then which items you received points for and which items we took points off of for too. So, Jim, did you have something you wanted to add?
I did, and Karen did share that with me, and I'm sorry I didn't get a chance to respond to you. And so I will kind of answer generically here. I'll put my contact information over on the side. Just so you have it. My name's Jim Como. I'm one of the assistant directors. So just generically, one of the concerns you raised was y'all had just had a review. I can't remember if it was Onsite or
It was an Onsite
a couple
year and a
years
half ago.
ago. Right.
Yeah, a year and a half ago. Yep.
And so, we do kind of, for lack of a better way of putting it, give you credit for a recent review. But we are going to evaluate whether or not we need to kind of give you more of a bump, you know what I mean? So that we know the kind of the muscle memory that you develop, with
Sure.
And so, but that's part of it. Generically, there are some things that you can't control. So y'all can't control, for example, the size of your allocation. So y'all are kind of in the medium range, and so we're more likely to visit you, right? Things you can control are carryover. Now, you're now thinking what happened 2 years ago for this, and so as you spend those funds on a regular basis, then that is actually helpful in terms of diminishing it. And so, again, I'll put my information over here, and you can email me, and I'll follow up with you directly, and we'll go from there. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, like I mentioned, I went through the process with our team, and we're trying to identify with my treasurer and some of our other team members that are part of our cabinet. We're just trying to identify where are the issues. We know there are some uncontrollable components, and we know that it's not necessarily that we're getting it's not punishment, but we went through it less than 2 years ago, and we felt as if we did very well and in our Onsite. And then I have consistently talked to multiple other districts, and they're not they're never pinpointed. So I'm just like, well, it would be nice to know, because we'd like to fix those things. It's just a matter of when you're maybe identified for something, it would be nice to know. So yeah, I mean,
that's fair. My recollection off the top of my head was there were a number of kind of overlapping things that you cannot control, size of your allocations, and so we do refine these. And we'll use this to inform that, because we don't want to keep. But I put my email over there, and you and I will be in direct touch. Do I think y'all don't have anything to worry about? No, but do I think y'all have a lot to worry about? Maybe not. But we have to set up this process. You know what I'm saying? And so sometimes when if you go out and you fish, you catch fish you don't want, right? And so anyhow, you and I will talk, all right?
Sounds good. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I think, as Jim, noted, that a lot of the risk factors are not necessarily factors that districts have control over, but they are items that put them at greater risk. So that's, that's just something to consider. So you will probably, because of those items, you're going to probably get reviewed more often than other districts that they don't get a very large allocation. They're very small. So I know in my district, it was every couple of years. And it was just because we got a lot of money from the Fed. So we were reviewed more often than those who didn't get as much. So it's not necessarily you're doing anything wrong. It's more of a factor that we're making sure that we're keeping you within the realms of being of compliance and safety, so that if another audit would come in and it wouldn't be ODE, you can feel pretty comfortable that you would be prepared for it then. Any other questions? Well, we will hang out here. If you have any questions on compliance, we're here to answer your questions. But that is the end of our presentation today on the new tool. I do apologize for its late opening this year. We're just as much on pins and needles over getting it going and started as you are. The migration to the new cloud system, along with all the one needs assessment and the one plan and all the other additional work with EdSteps, has stretched our IT department quite a bit. So that's the only explanation that we have for the lateness. It's just them being able to get everything done that needed to be done this year for all the new systems. So be patient with us, and we will be as flexible with you to help you get everything done within the timeline that we have to get things done by. So, and if you do run into something or an issue, please let your consultant know it, and we'll do what we can to work with you on it. I see a hand raised. So.
Diane, can you hear me?
I can.
Oh, good.